What are the benefits of a dual mono EQ? Now, when we talk about dual mono, we're talking about control of the left and right. Now, some EQs will have left, right, and you have independent control of each. There's pros and cons to using them. Some EQs will have one set of controls, which, you know, you'll have gain on the low end, which will control both left and right. There are the benefits of having dual mono are that you can use things like mid-side. So the left side controls the mid, the right side controls the side. Really beneficial to have. Some EQs even have mid-side built into them, like where we got it, Golly Porter Grinder. Or you can buy a mid-side box like the Gemini here, and that will give you mid-side. Really beneficial to have a mid-side EQ in your chain. Other benefits are sometimes, not always, but sometimes you will want to EQ the, for instance, drums. If you've got harsh cymbals, for instance, if they're panned, you know, if you've got a ride that's over on the right, you can just tame that down a bit and you don't have to tame as much on the left side. You can do things like that. It's not massively common, but you might need to do that. And that's a benefit of having dual mono. The benefits of having one control does both left and right is that you only control one side and it controls both. So you've got, let's say, the gain. When you have an EQ, for instance, like the PQ, this one, there's so many notches all the way around that you literally have to sit there and match them up, and it's very difficult to do, which is why I use the PQ in mid-side, because then you haven't got to match each side. That's something that it is a con towards the dual mono EQs, but most EQs are quite nicely stepped, especially in the mastering world, like the Buzz REQ 2.2. That is stepped really nicely, and you won't have that issue. But other EQs, more based around mixing, matching those is somewhat difficult. Like an SSL EQ, you know, they aren't stepped in any way, so you literally have to sit there like that, get real close and match those if you want to. That's somewhat problematic, because matching them, you'll never match them perfectly, and you never do. I mean, I used to have an SSL and it was an issue, and it was difficult to match each side. So I love to use stepped. When I select an EQ, I always get a version which is stepped. It's easier for recall, it's easier for multiple things, it's easier to match left and right. So they're kind of the pros, some of the pros and cons you'll find when you go dual mono. The other benefit is an EQ becomes multi-purpose, in the sense that if you've got an EQ that's dual mono, any of these EQs, dual mono EQ, if you're tracking or mixing, you can run through one, and then you can send another channel. You can send your kick through one side of the EQ. You can stick your snare through the other side of the EQ if it's mono. So you can run various mono signals through. So that's kind of a benefit in some ways. There's not really many other benefits to dual mono, but dual mono is, see, whenever I buy an EQ, I will always buy dual mono, or I will look to buy dual mono all the time, just for the simple fact of mid-side, left and right independent controls, and that's pretty much it. There is on some EQs, and many people think that the PQ has this because it has a link function, but all the link function does is links the on-off switches, basically, for each of the bands. It doesn't actually link the gain, Q, or frequency. Some EQs do have this, where you have link, and you can link left and right. So for instance, if you switch link on, whatever you do on the gain, for instance, on the left side is transferred over onto the right side. So it's basically as if you're turning both, but you're only having to turn one. That's a really good feature, but you will pay more for the EQ because it has that feature, because it's costly to do. That's, you know, my assumption anyways. So yeah, if you are looking to buy an EQ, consider, and for me, I favour dual mono for these reasons: the mid side, the left and right independent EQ, the fact that I can use for mixing going into each channel, and it really, I mean, that's really about it. I much prefer mid side EQs, obviously in dual mono.